Okay, we're going to have a short video on section 10.3. Section 10.3 is solving by addition. And we're still working on system of linear equations. And so we're still going to be working on the same type of problems that we've been working on. Systems of linear equations that look like y plus x equals 4 and 2y plus 3x equals 10. Now, of course, we can get this in many different shapes. The y could be solved for, x could be over here, things like that. Well, we've talked about how to do this using graphing, which, of course, using graphing requires us to get y equals mx plus b. Substitution requires us to solve for either the y or the x. And they both have their advantages and disadvantages. Solving by graphing, the advantage is that it's relatively quick and easy to do, particularly if you have no solution or an infinite number of solutions. Substitution is good whenever you've got some pretty easy numbers to work with. I also find addition to be very nice. Now, there is a relationship between these two lines, and we're going to use that relationship to our benefit when we're working on these questions. What we need to do when we are solving using addition, these are our steps. The first thing that we need to do, solving by addition, is we need to line up the x and y values. Now, what that means is that I want my y's on top of each other, my x's on top of each other, and my constants on top of each other. So everything has to be in the same location. Does it have to be in this standard form? Not necessarily, but it usually makes it nicer if it is. So after we line up our x and our y values, the second thing we need to do is we need to multiply by any number that gives us the following qualities. The first thing is we want the same coefficient. We want the same coefficient for one of the variables, but we want different signs. Okay. Same coefficient, but we want different signs. So what that's going to do for us is it's going to, when we end up adding things together, it's going to end up canceling out one of my variables because we're solving by addition, which means we're going to be adding these two lines together. And if we have the same coefficient with different signs, they're going to cancel out, give me a coefficient of 0, which is going to give me 0. The third step is that we're going to add the lines together. So in other words, add the x's and then add the y's together. Add the x's and add the y's. Once we do that, you should get that either one or both of the variables cancel. If one variable cancels, so let's say this, if both variables cancel. Both variables cancel, it's going to be the same as substitution. If it's a true statement, then my answer is an infinite number of solutions. If it's a false statement, then you're going to have no solution. Okay? Now, if only one variable cancels, then you're going to have one solution. If one variable cancels, then you're going to solve for that variable. Okay. If one variable cancels, solve the variable, and then you're going to plug that in. Plug in to either equation. And then finally, last but not least, we're going to solve for the other. Well, let's work a couple of examples here. I know this seems like a whole lot of steps, and there are a lot of them, but really it's pretty simple once we go through it. Okay, so actually, why don't we go ahead and work this problem? I think this problem should be okay to work. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that our numbers or our variables are lined up on top of each other. In this case, they are. So we're going to go ahead and write it down the way that it was. So this is just y plus x equals 4. And 2y plus 3x equals 10. Well, I want the same coefficient, but I want different signs. So I can pick whatever I want here. I'm going to pick to get rid of the x's. Okay? It doesn't matter. I could pick the y's if I wanted to, but I want to get rid of my x's. And so what's going to happen here is I'm going to multiply. I'm going to ask myself, what does my coefficient have to be? Well, it has to be the number 3. And then my sign has to be different, so it's got to be a negative 3. Well, that means that this entire top line, I'm going to multiply by negative 3. Okay, so I need to multiply this negative 3 by this y, and this negative 3 by this x, and this negative 3 by this 4. So we need to multiply them all. What that's going to look like now is it's going to look like negative 3y minus 3x equals negative 12. Well, this is going to give me 2y plus 3x is equal to 10. Now you should notice what's going to happen here. Notice that I've got this negative and this positive. These are going to cancel out. Adding these numbers together, negative 3y plus 2y gives me a negative y. And that's going to give me negative 12 plus 10 is going to give me negative 2. Solving, divide by negative 1, should give me y is equal to the positive number 2. Well, now we know what y is, we just need to know what x is. So I'm going to take this y, I'm going to plug it in up here for y, and then I'm going to solve for x. So this is going to give me 2 plus x is equal to 4. Subtract my 2, and that's going to give me that x is equal to 2. Well, this tells me now that I have one solution, so I have one solution, and that solution is the point x equals 2, y equals 2. Sorry. X equals 2 and y equals 2. Okay? I will work another problem in the next video so that we don't get too overwhelmed by one video. So another one is to follow.